everyone. Welcome to the ABCs of Handwriting Analysis. My name's Elaine Perliss, and I'm a certified hypnotherapist and HMI instructor here at HMI with over 10 years experience teaching handwriting analysis. Hey, did you know that there are approximately 1,864 separate traits that are revealed in your handwriting? And today we're going to examine one simple trait that you can start using right away to explore the handwriting of not only for yourself, but other people that you know. Also, we have a wonderful guest calling in later on in the show, and he's provided a sample of his handwriting, and we get to explore what interesting traits reveals about him. So let's go ahead and get started. Today we wanted to talk about one of my favorite subjects, neuroses. Neuroses actually there's a couple of things about neuroses. As a hypnotherapist, if the person has a neuroses or a diagnosed neurotic trait, in other words, that it's a diagnosable disorder, it's something that's out of our scope. However, neuroses can also mean someone who's overthinking or exaggerated behavior. You know, sort of, you know how sometimes you use, oh my gosh, I'm being so neurotic, that kind of a thing. So what we're looking for is specific traits that we can see in the writing that will indicate to us if the writer is either overthinking, in other words, going over it, or if they're actually having some behavioral situations that, you know, that are exaggerated, not necessarily like a smooth flowing flowing behaviors. And so let's go ahead and talk about some of the different things. There's lots of different ways that you can tell if the person is having neuroses or neurotic thinking. So there's a few that I've put on this board, and I just wanted to share a few of those with you today. The first one, if you see this line, you see this part right here where it says, "It's a wonderful," that's the beginning of the sentence. And what we're looking for here is this particular writing is written up and down and up and down. It's almost on a curve type of thing. It almost looks like a roller coaster. And what you're looking for is the writing that goes up and down and up and down. And so you can see it. It's almost like a wave on the ocean. And so anybody who has writing that has writing like this, and it goes up and down, and it's really dramatically up and down, we call it seriously sinuous. Someone who has writing like that, their moods are going up and down and up and down. I kind of call it like the angry ocean. Okay, so if you see writing that's going up and down and up and down, you know that their moods are going up and down with that. And if the moods are going up and down, you might think that there might be some overthinking or some exaggerated behavior that would go along with it. The next trait we want to look at are the ovals. Now, I've listed an O here, but it also works in A's and G's and any of the other letters that have an O or a round thing in the middle. Now, what you're looking for in the ovals is an O or an oval that is closed. In other words, it's a complete circle. But what you also want to see is a loop on the left and a loop on the right. And what this means is an oval is the communication letter. And the communication letter is, any of the ovals actually are communication letters. And what that means, if it's closed, that means they have a closed mouth. In other words, they're not talking. It's sort of like that old game Pac-Man. You know how when they have the mouth open and it goes and goes? Okay, well, that's what it is. It's chopping down all the words and stuff. So what it is this person is not really with an open mouth. They're not talkative. Now, there's a loop on the left, and what that means is they're filtering truth about themselves, or filtering, they might not be willing to admit something that's going on within themselves, like I'm not sure that I would ever do something like that. And they're just not really admitting it. They're maybe not connecting with the truth. And then filtering to others, that could be really tactful, that could be somebody who's not telling the whole truth, maybe a white lie. And so if you've got someone who's not talking and they're filtering truths about themselves and filtering truths about others, that could lead to exaggerated behavior. That could lead to overthinking. Okay, so that one you want to look for also. Now, the more of these traits that you see in the sample, the more likely the person is overthinking or having some exaggerated behavior. And by exaggerated behavior, it's something that's not normal, standard, to be expected, okay? The next one, this word here has a number of different traits to look for. The first one that you're looking at in this one is, do you see how the upper zone, and these are the tops of the letters, this is the upper zone, the tops of the letters, they're kind of broken, and the bottom part's okay. So the top part of the letter is actually the writer's thinking. If you had a stick figure and put it along the words, you see the top part is actually the thinking. This is the day-to-day and this is the subconscious. So this is the day-to-day, this is the thinking. And so what happens is that in this particular part, there's actual breaks in the thinking process. And so you want to look for random breaks in the writing only in the upper zone. Now, of course, a word of caution for that one is if you see that the writing is broken in the upper zone, you want to ask them to write with another pen or pencil, whatever the writing instrument is, to make sure it's not just a defective pen. So that's the first one you want to look for. The second one is, do you see how the I dot is dotted over to the left, and the T crossing, this is actually the T crossing, and it's over to the left. Sometimes you'll even see it a long way over to the left, but it doesn't necessarily cross. And what that means is the I dot is their attention to detail, the T crossing is the confidence. And if it's not front and center, the detail is right in the middle and the top. The closer to the top and the middle it is, the more detail oriented they are. And the T crossing, the more crossed over the middle and the higher it is, the more confident they are. Anything that's over to the left side of the letter is in the self and the past. It's also where procrastination is. And so if their attention to detail and their confidence is in the past or over on the left side, it means that there's some procrastination going on, possibly some overthinking happening, possibly some other things that are going on that are keeping them from actually bringing it into the present, which is in the middle of the letter, or the future, which is the right side of the letter. And so that's a really important one to look at. There's a couple of other ones in this word. Do you see how the top of the letter comes to a point? Whenever you see the top of the letter coming to a point, that means that the writer is overthinking. When you have someone who's overthinking, if you think about writing, it's a flow. It's a flow of your thoughts and your words on paper. And so if you think about, when people are learning how to write, remember back in the old days when you learned how to write, you'd see the letters, you'd be doing this kind of a thing. And writing flows like that. So if what happens, and that's a flow of your thoughts and behaviors, and it's coming out of your subconscious. But if your thoughts are going up and stopping, up and down, so what happens is you're going up here and you're stopping. So it's an overthought. And remember back on the stick figure, it's being stuck up here in your thinking. And so if you're overthinking, that could lead to an exaggerated behavior. It could lead to, just not even being able to move forward because you're thinking about it over and over and over. The last one that's in this particular one is, do you see how the ending stroke comes up and over? Whenever you have the ending stroke coming up and over, think about the roof of a house or an umbrella, and it's somebody who's literally covering themselves. And when they're covering themselves, what's happening is they're creating a protective cover to keep themselves from being vulnerable or exposed. And so if you've got someone who's doing that, if they're spending a lot of time keeping themselves protected, that could actually be as a result of some exaggerated behavior. Maybe they're afraid to reveal something about themselves. Maybe they're afraid to take a step forward. Maybe they're afraid to become, exposed to whatever it is that they're working on. So there's a couple of other ones, but this particular word has a lot of them. Now think about when you're going over it and over it and over it, just like in this pointed top. If you see someone who is writing, like say that they're writing a word and they're going over it and over it and over it, See that kind of a thing? What's happening is they're going over it and over it and over it and over it. And so what that means is that whatever that word is, they're going over it and over it in their thoughts. And so when you see a sample, what you want to look at for the sample, and you'll see this one a lot, which is really cool, you'll see the whole sample, and then you'll see maybe one word or one sentence where the writer actually went over it and over it and over it. And what that is an affecting word. And in that particular word, whatever that word is, you look at it because it has special significance for the writer. And that, whatever that word is, they're going over it and over it. And so that could lead to an exaggerated behavior. It could lead to overthinking. It could lead to an actual, basically frozen. They don't really know what they're doing in that. So if you're working with someone, like in your therapy, if you're a hypnotherapist and working with someone and you see one word in the sample that is traced over and over and over again, you know that that writer's spending a lot of time on that particular word, and they're struggling with it, and it's a really, really important one. In fact, affecting words, sometimes you'll see some of these traits, the neuroses, you'll only see them in certain words, or you'll only see them in a certain sentence. And what that means is, look at the word or look at the sentence to see what the person is overthinking, see what the person is doing as it relates to the exaggerated behavior, because it will be only apparent in that part. Now, if you see it random, if you see some of these traits randomly throughout the sample, then what you're noticing is a situational thing. So, for example, if the writer is sometimes overthinking it and sometimes not, if you're working with them or if you are connecting with someone, you'll know that sometimes they'll have a tendency to overthink. Anyways, we could go on and on about neuroses and go over it and over it and over it, but I wanted to go ahead and let's take a break. And stay tuned, because when we come back, we're going to have a wonderful guest who's calling in and we'll be able to examine his writing and to see what it reveals. Okay, thanks so much. About him. So let's go ahead and get started. Today we wanted to talk about one of my favorite subjects, neuroses. Neuroses actually there's a couple of things about neuroses. As a hypnotherapist, if the person has a neuroses or a diagnosed neurotic trait, in other words, that it's a diagnosable disorder, it's something that's out of our scope. However, neuroses can also mean someone who's overthinking or exaggerated behavior. You know, sort of, you know how sometimes you use, oh my gosh, I'm being so neurotic, that kind of a thing. So what we're looking for is specific traits that we can see in the writing that will indicate to us if the writer is either overthinking, in other words, going over it and over it, or if they're actually having some behavioral situations that, you know, that are exaggerated, not necessarily. Hey everyone, welcome to the ABCs of Handwriting Analysis. My name's Elaine Perliss and I'm a certified hypnotherapist and HMI instructor here at HMI with over 10 years experience teaching handwriting like a smooth flowing behaviors. And so let's go ahead and talk about some of the different things. There's lots of different ways that you can tell if the person is having neuroses or neurotic thinking. So there's a few that I've put on this board, and I just wanted to share a few of those with you today. The first one, if you see this line, you see this part right here where it says it's Handwriting Analysis. Hey, did you know that there are approximately 1,864 separate traits that are revealed in your handwriting? And today we're going to examine one simple trait that you can start using right away to explore the handwriting of not only for yourself, but other people that you know. Also, we have a wonderful guest calling in later on in the show, and he's provided a sample of his handwriting, and we get to explore what interesting traits reveals